managing and preserving property of the elderly and protecting the financial well-being of the family facing catastrophic long-term costs are major problems confronting many families today. Navigating the complexity around these topics is of interest to many seniors and is the focus of an elder care attorney. Attorneys Bernie and Rhoda Fowler with Kentucky Elder Law are my guests on the Aging with Options program. Thank you for tuning into the show today. Bernie and Rhoda, some interesting conversation about a number of topics today. Let's transition our thoughts a little bit here, if we could. Rhoda, we've talked before about options that many seniors and their families elect. Sometimes it's a facility, a nursing home, assisted living, but many seniors choose to stay in their own home and receive care in their own home by a caregiver that's selected for them. Options available to them could be a private caregiver that they hire on their own, maybe a family friend or someone that they find just to provide those services independently. Another option, of course, is home care services that could be provided by an agency, for instance. I know you have an opinion upon the difference between those two, advantages between those two options. And I'd love to hear your perspective on this, Rhoda.
Sure, I have a very strong opinion on it. Other than hiring somebody's family members, such as a daughter, I don't think that people should use private caregivers for many reasons. First of all, most private caregivers want to be paid cash or checks made out to cash, so that they are being paid off the books. It bothers me very deeply, and it should bother everyone when people are paid off the books because they are not paying their fair share of taxes, which means the rest of us who are paying taxes are paying our share and their share. An additional problem for somebody who hires a private caregiver is if the caregiver falls or gets injured in the person's home, they're not covered by their homeowner's insurance because they are an employee and not a visitor. If it's a serious injury, the insurance company will investigate and will deny insurance coverage because it was an employee. The employee can then sue the homeowner, and depending on the severity of the injury, they could wind up owning the home and all of the homeowner's assets. An additional problem is that we have seen private caregivers insinuate themselves with somebody, especially an older person that they're caring for, and they're there every day, as opposed to family members who are not, get the older person to sign a new power of attorney, sell the older person's home, take their money, take the older person, move away, and the family can't find them. And in every case where we've seen it happen, the family has said, I couldn't imagine it happening to us because she is just like family. So they are not family. What we suggest people do is that they hire a reputable home health care agency such as BrightStar that does background checks on people, 50 state criminal background checks, that make sure that people who are caring for someone in the home is not in great financial stress undergoing bankruptcy, which makes them more likely to be tempted to steal. We'll have workers' compensation. We'll bond them. We'll do checks for health, such as TB checks, HIV checks. We'll have supervisors available to handle any problems. We'll have backup so that if a caregiver is sick, somebody can be there. You don't want a caregiver coming with 102 fever. Another problem with private caregivers when it's a family member is that if you're going to apply to Medicaid, you need to show that if you've hired a family member, you had a caregiver agreement in place before the person started to get paid. It cannot be retroactive. With somebody who's paid off the books, you cannot go to the Medicaid office and say, you see all these checks made out to cash, or you see these big withdrawals of cash? That was to pay an off-the-books illegal caregiver, but I want you, the state Medicaid, to count it as legitimate. So we tell people to never use private caregivers.
Can't make it much more clear than that, huh?
Nope.
I just want to add, we're not shilling for BrightStar. We've been saying this for the last 10 years.
I know you have, that's for sure. Well, I appreciate the clarity on that, Rhoda. Thank you very much for summing that up. I know a lot of families are in the position of considering that decision today, and it's important to know there are lots of ways to hire private caregivers. Many folks are making themselves available to do that type of work, but it's important. People just don't know the risks that are involved with going that route.
Right. And while an off-the-books private caregiver is likely cheaper, you get what you pay for.
Right.
And you don't get all the protections.
Very well. Okay, different topic of conversation. Rhoda, if you will, many seniors and their families are now facing the decision about whether or not mom and dad should still be driving their car. Tell us who should not be driving. What are some things that families should be considering when that decision is something that they're faced with?
Think about whether you would want to be in an oncoming car when mom or dad is making a left-hand turn against ongoing traffic. Think about whether you'd want to have your young child or grandchild walking on the street as mom is driving or pulling into her driveway. If the answer is no, you need to stop mom from driving or dad from driving, regardless of how angry it is going to make them. You can do it one of many ways. You can simply take away the car. You can disable the car, take parts out. You can ask the family doctor to tell the senior citizen that they should no longer be driving. You can take them to Fraser Rehab, where for a $300 test, they will do special testing to see if the person is competent to drive. And if they are not, Fraser will notify motor vehicles and the license will be withdrawn. I heard of a very clever thing the other night when I was at a meeting at Arden Courts where daughter had a set of keys, mom had a set of keys. Daughter took mom's set of keys and filed them down so it no longer turned on the car. Then, when mom complained that the car wouldn't start, daughter would start it with daughter's keys and say, "See, mom, it starts." And daughter would take her keys away, and mom would be left with the keys that didn't work.
Pretty shifty.
Yes.
Not so sure about that.
So mom would then think it was mom who was having the problem starting the car.
Interesting. And then more reliant upon daughter in that situation.
Yeah, I want to add one thing. If you're going to take away the keys of the parent is still, mobile, you have to think about how they are going to get around. You need to provide some alternative. You can't say, "Dad, we're taking the keys away, and by the way, you stay home now 24 hours a day." You need to contact TARC or have kids do it or some mechanism so that dad still can get out if he wants to get out, or mom.
Certainly one consideration is not allowing mom or dad to drive when they no longer should be driving. But I heard a statistic the other day when one person who has been driving can no longer drive, that 6 people are impacted by that on occasion when somebody can no longer drive. So great to take those keys out of their hands, but certainly, like to your point, Bernie, you got to make other arrangements.
You got to look at the alternatives. And the typical accident for an early mid-level dementia patient is a left turn into oncoming traffic. So the person who bears the brunt is the passenger. So if dad, who never wants to give up his keys, is still driving and has dementia, and mom is just, used to going along with him, if there's an accident, she is the one who is likely to bear the impact.
Okay. Always full of great information. My guests in the studio are Bernie and Rhoda Fowler. We're speaking about legal issues facing seniors. We'll take a quick break and be back with the Aging with Options show on 970 WGTK.